Hey everybody, Jackrabbit here. In today's video, I'm going to deep dive into the Paclock 200K Club submission process. In this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know to submit your pick attempt, but I'm also going to combine that with some tips that I thought would have been helpful when I went to pick the Paclock 98 Pro for the first time. So there's plenty of great videos out there that already detail this process, but I wanted to put together a video that encompassed everything you need to know about either the full submission process, plus also the tips that I have that helped me through the process. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, to officially submit your pick for the 200K Club, Paclock requires one single continuous video, no editing or cuts allowed. The key must be shown, but also make sure you don't expose your key number unless you're comfortable sharing it. And so what you'll see here, for instance, this is the Paclock key. If you were to show it like this, that would be perfect for the submission. Now, what they're suggesting you don't do is share this side. I obviously am comfortable sharing it. I don't have any issue with that, but you might not be. So try to hide this, maybe put some tape over it. Otherwise, just be careful to show just this side. So the lock must start in a locked position, and it must remain fully visible throughout the entire pick attempt. And this is to ensure fairness and authenticity in the submissions. So now one key requirement is removing the bottom pins. You don't have to fully gut the lock. You can just drop the key pins to prove they haven't been tampered with. And I'll show this process a little bit later in the video. For the 98 Pro, you'll need to remove the cylinder and expose just the pins. But for the 410 Pro, this step's not necessary since gutting it would mean destroying the lock. After recording, you have to make sure you tag Paclock and use the hashtag Paclock200K if you're uploading it to YouTube, Reddit, or other platforms. Once done, you send your submission via email to marketing@paclock.com. But just note, Paclock gets a ton of these requests, and so you got to be patient while they review your submission. For me, I think it took over a month at least. So just be patient, and you'll get there. So now we'll head into the next section, which is I'm going to show you how to drop the key pins without fully gutting. Okay, so you've picked your Paclock and you want to submit your entry. What do you do to prove that you haven't tampered with the pins? One common question is whether you need to fully gut the lock. The answer is no. You don't need to fully gut the lock. The submission process for the 200K Club only requires dropping the key pins, not a full gut. So why don't I show you really quickly what you need to do. So to gut this lock for the submission process, we'll start from the beginning. So we just gotta pull out the core. Okay, and I do want to give you a tip. So when gutting and reassembling the Paclock, because you have to have the key in there to open the shackle and pull all this out, in order to fit this metal piece, so I'll pull this out here. You see how it kind of catches around, it's caught around the key. So then the core pulls out. Well, when you're trying to reassemble, let me get the ball bearing back where it needs to be. One of the questions is, how do I get this to fit again? And what you need to do is you got to get the core back in, but you got to make sure, when I did it the first time, I tried to take get the ball bearings back. So I would try to put the core in without the key and then try to fit this. As you can see, it doesn't fit. So really what you need to do is just put this around the key, put the key in, and then well, make sure that you get it oriented the right way. And then put the key in, turn the lock, and now you can fit that in, and then that fits. Just a quick helpful tip. But anyway, so you want to pull out the core, and ball bearings may fall out. That's fine. Just put them in again later. But to prove that you picked the lock, we'll get this out of the way just for visibility. All you need to do is dump the key pins. Well, what does that mean? It means if you see at the bottom of the lock, there's these holes. And when you turn the key all the way around, you can see here's the key pins. And so the submission process just requires you to dump these pins. So we'll demonstrate with, we'll drop the first key pin, and then we'll drop the second key pin, and so on, until you've dumped all of the pins. And then once you've done that, I would suggest that you either zoom in or hold up the pins so you can see, so that they can see the key pins. And then when you want to put it all back together, just take a look at the pin. Let's see if I can focus on the pin itself here. We'll just try to, well, basically you just want to put the kind of the rounded end, which touches the key, put that in first, drop that back in, and now you should see that it's flush with all the other pins. And once you've popped both pins back in, you should be able to turn the core back, and then you can proceed with putting the lock back together. A lot easier than a full gut. But once you do that, put it back together and follow the submission process from earlier. But now, if you want to use this lock as your blue belt submission, you would need to do a full gut. So why don't we go into the full gut process next? Okay, so now let's say if you want to use this lock in this video for your blue belt submission. It's what I did, what a lot of people want to do, 2 birds, 1 stone. So in order to do that, like I said, you'll need to fully gut the lock. And this is going to mean fully disassembling the lock and showing all internal components. So, and this would still satisfy the Paclock requirements. So let's go through gutting. I don't know that it's done often enough, but so to gut this lock, what we can do is we just need to remove this C-clip in the back. And usually you can find one of these gutting tools. They're really helpful. You could probably get away with just using, anything that can help push this C-clip out. But for me, I've got a gutting tool, so I'm gonna use it to pop this C-clip. And so you need to, align these things that they press, and then you can see how the C-clip kind of just pops out. So we'll pull the C-clip out. And then the next thing I recommend for all newer pickers, and really if any pickers, if you don't know what's going on inside the lock, is I would recommend you take the key, you turn it a little bit, and you use a shim. So a shim is just a thin piece of metal that you can fit right in. And what you want it to do is you want to slide it in so that it blocks the driver pins. So that way, when you're sticking a follower through, if something goes wrong, maybe because you could see if you turn this too far, this space right here is a great space for pins to drop into. And so when you're trying to block that, to make sure that the pins don't fall here and then you end up wrecking springs, putting a shim into that spot helps ensure that those pins aren't going to drop out. So then I would take a follower. And if you've got a follower like this is nice nice when you're actually gutting, because you've got this extra space the pins can drop into. But you got to make sure that this piece is where the driver pins are going to fall in. More so if you don't have a shim, because if you got a shim, that's already doing some of the blocking. So then it's nice and easy, quick movement. And we just slide these out. And once you get to a certain point, if the shim is going with, you can kind of try to block the shim with your finger so it stays put that way. And then you can keep pushing until the follower is all the way through. And there's the key pins. And here's the full. We'll set this aside. And in my case, I'm just going to put the core in here and we'll deal with the driver pins first. But if you don't have one of these holders, you can kind of prop it up, or you can do the key pins first. But then what we'll do is we'll take out the shim. It has served its purpose until you go to reassemble. You might want to use it then too. And then we're going to start gutting. And so this was the front of the lock. So this will be pin 1. So then we'll just slowly push this in until we see pin 1 pop out. And you can see in this case, pin 1 is a spool. And I'm going to drop that there, okay? And then we're just going to keep going until all of the pins are out. What you can do, it's probably good form to drop the springs as you go, because then you keep the spring in the same spot. But in this case, I know all the springs are the same, so you don't need to do that. And mine is being a jerk and getting stuck to my tweezers. So we'll drop the second pin. There you go. And it's like, I don't know, there's like static clinging, but it's clinging to my tweezers. So at this point, because those springs are all the same, I'm just going to keep pulling out the pins and we'll deal with the springs later. So here's pin 3. Here's pin 4. Here's pin 5. And actually, this is a good opportunity for me to show you another pro move that took me a long time to figure out. When you're getting that far back, it gets kind of hard to pull out the pins as you go. So what you can do is, if you want to, and remember that you're switching to the back of the lock, you can switch to the back and start gutting from this direction too. So in this case, this will be pin 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we'll move on to pin 6. And we'll move on to pin 5. At this point, you will want to show all the springs. So you can dump all the springs. And if you want to align them, you can. I'm not going to, because the static electricity seems to be sticking these to my tweezers, and I don't want to deal with that for every single pin. So now, then you can take I would recommend pulling the key out slowly, because as you pull the key out, you see the pins moving. If you pull too fast, you might launch one of those across the room. We don't really want that. So then just try to take and cover up all of the openings and see so you're basically just dropping one pin at a time. So there you go. I dropped pin 1 and then pin 2 and then pin 3. You can see these are kind of falling out not easily where I want them to be, so I'll just have to stop once in a while, make sure that we're keeping the pins in order. And you can see right there, I just dropped one into the wrong place, so make sure you put it back to where it should be. And if everything fails and you put the key pins in the wrong spots, or you mix them up, all you need to do then is, when you're reassembling, put the key in, and then when you drop the key pins in, if they're not flush, that means you got one in the wrong spot. So it's usually pretty easy to figure out. So that is the gutting process. And then what I would do is either zoom in or hold this up so that everyone can see the pins. If you feel like it, you can go through and you can describe what you see. You've got some spools, a lot of spools, some serrated pins. But in the end, as long as you show this, that's enough for the blue belt submission, outside of doing the additional quest. So we've gone through all of the different gutting that you need to do, either for the blue belt submission or for the 200K Club submission. So next, I want to kick it off and to do some actual picking tips. And I'm going to actually pick one of these Paclocks while I talk about some different tips that helped me. They're not, everyone may have different tips, but these are the ones that helped me. So we'll head off to the next section. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where we're going to talk a little bit about some tips for picking this lock. Before I demonstrate picking it, I'm going to kind of give you all the different tips that I have, and then we'll shift over and let you see it in practice. But the few things that I want to say, starting off, watch out for zero lift or zero touch pins. And what those are pins that are automatically set at the point where you even put any tension on the lock at all. So what you'll see in these Paclocks, they're pretty well known for these zero lift pins. And we can see that demonstrated by looking at the key. So in this case, you can see that there's a couple spots right around pin 2, and then also around pin 7, where they look pretty deep. That is usually a pretty good indicator that those are going to be zero touch pins. The other way to tell is when you're actually picking the lock. You may be used to feeling a pin that binds and pressing it, and then it's set in place. Well, these zero lift pins, they're going to feel like binders, but in order to move them, you're going to really have to put a lot of pressure on them. And so my suggestion would be, if you feel a pin that feels like it's binding, but it's really not moving very much or at all, don't force it. Just move on and maybe come back to it later, and you'll see if it's a zero lift or if it needs you to touch it at all. The second thing I'm going to suggest is you use very light tension, and there's a couple of reasons. First of all, light tension on this lock, it just helps getting those pins set and not oversetting them. But another reason why I'm suggesting light tension is because I'll show you the core from my very first 98 Pro. And you can see, if you look at this core, let me try to put some light on it. Right up here in the top of the keyway, you can see that it's pretty worn. And that happens with this core. So this lock, this particular one, I struggled to do top of the keyway tension on it because it has worn down to the point where it's really, you really have to, it requires you to kind of hold the tensioner in a certain way to get it to even stay there. So that's my next suggestion. Keep the tension light. Don't put too much pressure on that top of the keyway, or you'll hurt your lock. And the other thing I suggest is progressive pinning. And progressive pinning, essentially, progressive pinning is taking out pins and learning the lock as you go. So the easiest way to do that is it's pretend you're gutting the lock, take out maybe pins 5, 6, and 7, so that you start with pins 1 through 4. And then you'll take those out of the driver as well. So it's like gutting the lock, but only taking out a few pins. Do that, and then slowly work yourself up to 7 pins. That'll help you immensely. And finally, the jiggle test. I'll probably talk about it as I'm picking this lock, but I'll also link to a video that describes the jiggle test way better than I can. But the jiggle test is something you should know. It's a way to tell the current state of the pin. So with all that said, I'm going to try to put this in practice so you can see what it looks like to pick this lock. Okay, so let's actually pick this lock now. So what you're going to do is put in a tensioner that fits nice and snugly. The snugger it fits, the better. And then we're going to try to pick this lock. So right, nothing on 1, nothing on 2. 3's binding. Loosen tension a little bit. All right, got a click out of 3. I'm just going to leave it there for now. Little clicks out of 4 and 5. I think 6 is that zero lift. I'm pushing on it, nothing's going on. So let's go to 7. 7's binding. Click out of 7.
I'm doing the jiggle test to see if I can figure out if that pin's set. It feels pretty set. So let's go back to the beginning. Now pin 2 is binding. So I'm going to loosen tension until pin 2 clicks and we're good. Now pin 4 appears to be binding. So we're going to push that until it sets. All right. Now pin 5 is binding. I think pin 5 is set. And let's go back up and we got it open on pin 7. So it's just that easy. All right, and with that open, that's going to wrap up the deep dive into the Paclock 200K Club submission process and potentially your blue belt submission. Hopefully these tips help you get your fancy Paclock 200K Club Pro Series patch. And then now don't forget to tag Paclock and use the hashtag Paclock 200K Club when you're posting your video, and make sure you email their marketing team. And I'll have all these instructions written out in the description below so you can follow that, as well as timestamps so you can bounce around to find what you're looking for. And finally, I want to mention that I have recorded this video as a submission for NickFit Locks is doing a giveaway for his 0-day gear giveaway, and that's going to be I'll put the hashtag for that in the description. So I think there's a few days left if anybody wants to enter that. NickFit Locks is asking us to record something where you're giving tips and helping. So that really is what pushed me to make this video, and I appreciate it, NickFit Locks. Hopefully, now that I've gotten one tutorial style video out of the way, I'll start doing this more often. So thank you there. And with that, if you have any questions, make sure you comment below, and then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And then until next time, keep up the picking.